Alrighty guys, so uh, as you can see, my car looks a lot different. Basically, I started noticing some small things because when I did the roll cage, I was still brand new to welding. Still am brand new to welding, but I've learned a lot more, and it's crazy how much you progress if you just practice and you start noticing stuff and you realize, oh, this isn't correct. And if you look at FD rule book, you can't have any porosity in your welds, and everything has to be 100% welded with no undercut. So I've been noticing some things on my welds when I did the X brace and stuff like that, and actually, I was not very happy with it. So I went ahead and cut it out, and all I did was take a Sawzall to it, and you can see I went ahead and took out the strut brace, and then I took out that X brace up there, and it mounts to these base plates on the front of the strut tower. So I do not like the way it looks. Aesthetically and structurally. So basically I went ahead and decided to just cut it out. I'm pretty close to just cutting out the whole cage, to be honest with you. The only welds that are good are the ones that my dad did. The ones I did kind of look like shit. So yeah, you can see where those mounted up over there. And now my plan is to not just repeat what I did the first time. Basically right now I'm trying to sit here and make up like a template with the strut towers to make some new base plates. But basically I'm going to try to reinforce the strut towers and box them in so I can hide the previous base plate I did and kind of reinforce it so it's stronger. I think it'll look better and be stronger at the same time. So basically I was sitting here messing with the paper trying to get this to fit. But I think this is perfect. I measured it out and it's 2 inches. So I was like, what's 2 inches that I have? I don't have any 2-inch pipe. So I pulled out a hole saw that's 2 inches and it's perfect. So now I can go ahead and trace that onto a piece of cardboard. And then I can trace out my bolt holes on top. And then I'll cut that off for the top hat. And then basically I'm just going to use some cardboard, make a template, and box in the front half of the strut tower. That way I can keep weight and the base plates need to be within 100 square inches. So that is the plan. Sorry for all the rambling, but walking you through with detail what I'm doing. Sometimes when something's not right, just take it back a step and start fresh, because you don't want to just keep going. So I've been debating it for a week now, and I've just decided to pretty much just cut it out, half of the cage, and start over. Pretty close to doing the whole cage, if not the door bars at least. So we'll see what I end up doing. And let's get this done before they open these damn tracks back up, alright? Alrighty, so a quick update. I cut out the rear X brace, the rear strut brace, the main hoop, and now I gotta cut out the door bars, the rocker boxes up there, anti-intrusion bars, and the halo bar since I welded it to the chassis, and the A-pillar bar there. And then I just picked up a bunch more DOM tubing so I can make the roll cage. And yeah, it's up in the garage, man. But here's the main hoop that I cut out. And you know, I was gonna just fix it, but it's just not worth it at this point. So I'm just gonna make a new one. What's going on?
Your food smells good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's good. I've never been to that place before.
pretty good, man.
Yeah, it seems like it's good people in there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Okay, that took about, say, an hour, but I got it all cut out. Pain in the ass. Hardest part was cutting the main hoop, and then the rocker box area is out. Still gotta finish cleaning that side up, and then I gotta flap everything down. But man, that was a pain in the ass. But now I can start from scratch and make it the way I want to make it. The first cage was basically half of it we did, and then half of it was an Juku off the shelf cage. So I'm looking forward to making my own stuff now with my own door bars and stuff because I got a bender. So hopefully it turns out a lot nicer than it did, and it's safer overall, and that is the main goal. Don't want to do it again. Why I had the windshield out. Figured might as well do it now. So yeah. That's the cage over there. Oh man, that was a pain in the ass. Whew. Do it right the first time. I measured from the top of the roof here over to the other side, which was about, what was it, 38 3/4, I think. Cut that in half, so 19 3/8. Made my mark for the center line, and that's just a reference point. Then I took a cheater bar, which I don't know where mine went, but basically I stuck that up into the corner here and found out where it would go, and I made a notch on the tube where it would where the bend starts. So all I did was trace that onto the roof here and then measure from the center point to my mark on this side, which was 16.5. Same on the other side. And because we want to leave enough room for welding, I'm going to subtract 1 inch off of that totally. So it'll be, instead of 16.5, 16.5, it would be 16 and 16 to give us an inch of clearance. So that would give us a 1/2 inch of tolerance on each side of the cage. And then basically I came over, found the longest piece of tube I have in my pile, which is 11 feet. And hopefully that's enough. I think it's going to be enough. But basically this is exactly 11 feet. I measured to the center line of the tube, so 5'6". Made a mark, and then from the center line, marked over to my 16 inches, and marked over to my 16 inches. And then that's going to take about 8 inches of material, and this will be the end of the bend here. And then I could start figuring out the other two bends. So that's what we got going on. And then, so basically total, I measured just to double check because I don't want to screw up another piece of material. And that stuff I'm still going to be able to use somewhere else. Thankfully I didn't bend all 4 bends. But I just double check your measurements. So we're 16 here. And then I did the same thing here. And we're 16 there. Okay, so good to go there. That gives us 32 inches for our top main hoop, which seems to make sense if we go back in the car and measure it out. So I think we're doing okay. And now I'm just going to go ahead and throw this in the bender and pray to the gods. Pray to the gods. I'm so scared to ruin this. Please work. Ooh. Don't forget to take your spring back out or preload it and set your dial. Alright, almost screwed that up already. So 16 inches on the bender die. It's going to go this way. We're going to take it out and do the same thing on the other side. Let's go. Please God. Please God work. Did I lube the tube? Okay, we're sending that at this point. I see that starting to gouge. I'm going to take it back out and lube the tube. So far so good. Please be good to me. I want it to be a main hoop. So far so good. Okay. I wonder. What do we got? We're at 28. I just want to just gonna clear that pillar. Cool. So 11-foot tubes I can work with. Now I'm just hoping this main hoop is actually big enough. Or just make a bigger rocker box. Alright, so now we might hit the car. Fuck that car. Don't like that car anyway. You're at 55. Make sure you take into account for this spring back, which is like 3 degrees for this DOM, maybe more. Kind of depends on your setup. That's there. That's 60 degrees, baby. So we dropped it like it's hot. And I don't see any thingies. Alright, so just gonna wipe off right there at the die. Grab a marker so I can give myself a reference point of where to put that back in. So start of follower, just put SOF, and then we can go ahead and take out our tube, crack this nut loose, bolt loose. Get ready for it to fall and hit my radiator. Okay. Bam. Pretty happy that cleared the pillar in the car. So let's see what we got going on here. Oh. Okay. Alright, take that off. Take our tube out. It's kind of like double measure. Start of our bend was here. Yeah, okay. I think we did it, guys. Alright, I think we did it. So, start of my bend was here, and I put that directly at the start of this die. So right here, right on that permanent marker line. And that's it, bent it this way, so that's gonna be my first leg. Now I'm gonna come over, here's my center line, come over another 16, bam, and we're gonna do the same exact thing on the opposite side. And then that's gonna bend this one that way, which gives us our first 2 bends, and it's looking pretty good already. Next up, we're gonna flip this around, and then I'm gonna use my little Rogue Fab digital angle clamp, whatever the hell you want, tube clamp. And then my gauge, I'm going to zero it out on the die, zero it out on the leg, zero it out on the other leg, so it's all on the same plane. And then we can go ahead and make sure we have a little bit of tension on there, and make sure it's all zero again, just to double check. Do the same thing, re-lube everything. Alright, so next up we're going to use our gauge and our tube clamp. Find the center of the tube with the clamp by just tightening it. And we're going to zero out our gauge on the die, on one leg and on the other leg. Make sure we have our tables there. I actually really like these rigid stands. These are pretty cheap. I think they're like 30 bucks or something, but it's pretty adjustable. They're like fully able to go up and down. And I can just loosen that, put my gauge on one leg, and then bring it up to 0. Go back to the other side, do the same thing. Zero it out, come back. I double check that one, make sure it's still 0. Sometimes it moves. Make sure I have a little bit of tension on here, so everything kind of aligns inside the die and the bender. And make sure we're already cranked down here. And so far it seems to be working, so if you guys have better advice, just feel free to let me know. But that's what I've been doing. So let's go ahead and do this other bend. Sorry guys, one last tip. Before you move on, or whatever, so we went to 60 degrees on this side. If we do the same thing on the other side, it should be the same regardless of what it ends up being. But you could take one of these digital angle finders and actually stick it up on the legs of the bend. Blah. That's just an example. Make sure it's like flat, so like that, and it'll tell you an actual reading of what angle you have there. And so, if, for example, if this is 122 or 123, we're going to take 180, subtract the 122 from that, and that gives you your actual bend. Okay, so remember that. If you want to actually double check your spring back, if this is saying 60 degree bend and then you go and double check it and it's actually 58, that's something to take into account for when you're actually bending. You can actually just bend it up to 62 degrees, and then when you get done, it's already at 60, so you don't have to tweak it or put it back in the bend or anything like that. So it's kind of a good thing to realize, and this isn't exact, so I would double check it, and that's why it's probably good to underbend it a little bit before you actually know your setup and get used to it. And then take into account if you're bending DOM versus regular seam tube, it's going to be totally different versus ERW or chromoly or aluminum. So you should know for each material you're doing, and I would do that when you're making your cheaters. So yeah, just something to take into consideration. I thought it was pretty cool. I got that off of Fabricator series, so that was a cool tip. Hey guys, real quick, just to show you my setup. So here's the long leg that's not bent yet. Here's the one we just bent. Basically, this is my mark from center line being here. Being there. So that indicates 16 inches from center line. And basically, the way I do it is I push this all the way until that line's directly inside that die. Let's see. So if you can see that, the line is directly against this one, and just until it disappears, that's where I put my tube for the start of the bend. Because if you kind of picture this, that's where the bend's actually going to start. I think some people put it back here, and that's kind of confusing to me because really that's like another 4 inches of just straight tubing that's not actually going to be bent, because the bend actually does start here. That's where the shiny mark goes on your tube. That's where it's actually bent. So from here, you can feel it. You can always feel the start of your bend is going to be right about here. So for me, I mean, that just kind of makes the most sense. I don't know if that's the right way or wrong way, but that's the way I've been doing it, and it's been working out so far. So hopefully this continues to work out for me, because I don't want to waste any more money. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this going. And I figured out what I did wrong last time, because I was curious, like, how the hell did I bend that wrong? So basically what I did was I was kind of picturing the bender the wrong way, I guess you could say. I was thinking this was like the bend for some reason, and this side was like the straight part. But actually, if you actually think about it, it makes sense, because looking at the die, it obviously bends around the die. So I mean, whichever way you want to kind of picture that. And then I bent this side, right, which was on that side, and then I basically just slid it up, and then I rebent it, which means I was on the opposite side of the line I was supposed to be on. So I lost like a good 4 inches or whatever, or 8 inches, because I bent it on the wrong side. So that's why my other tube is the wrong size. So I guess we'll find out what that's going to be good for. Hopefully that's like the perfect length for the front hoop or the side hoop. All right, so we zeroed it out on the die, zeroed it out on this leg, zeroed it out here, and then I zeroed it out here, and I had to go back and adjust it a few times and then lock in this one. So if you get this level, you can slide that one up and down. At the same time, use your other hand, crank this one down, and lock that in place, and then recheck everything again just to be sure it doesn't hurt, and double check you're bending on the right side. Make sure you have a little tension on there to get rid of the preload, and then you want to mark your dial on 0 after you preload it, and then bend it to the same one you did on the other side. And by the way, I checked mine like I was telling you guys to do, and I ended up bending it to 62 degrees. So I bent it to 60 here, and it ended up being 62, which I was shooting for around 63 to 60. So I think that's going to work out fine. Just now I know when I'm bending this one, it's going to be 62 actually, even though I'm going to 60. Even though I wanted 60, I'm going to replicate that on both sides. So it should still be good. Okay, so we got our first 2 big bends done, and everything came out great. Before, man, I was having trouble with my die putting gouges on the tubing, and I just re-sanded it from 180 all the way up to 1500, and no more imperfection. So thank God, because I thought I was going to have to buy a whole nother die, and I literally had it in my cart. So I'm glad I decided to call the company, Woodward Fab, and ask him what he thought. And he kind of said, yeah, I think you should just probably round off the edge of that and try it again. So I did that, and it came out great. So hopefully we won't have any issues in the future. So here's our main hoop. Looks dope. Now we just need to figure out our next 2 bends. So if we did 62 and 62, we know the next 2 bends are going to probably be 28 degrees. Alrighty guys, so basically I made this little mock-up over here, kind of like a jig. And this is like my starting point where my rocker box is going to be. This is kind of like where I wanted the second bends to start. And that's going to be basically representing my roof line. Made like a center line. Made sure it was equal on each side from the center line to the outside of the tube where it meets that board. And I got that from the Fabricator series on YouTube, so I didn't like think of it or anything, but it was pretty helpful. And then I'm still kind of like learning as I go, but I went ahead and used my cheater and stuck this up in the car, and I put it about where I want it, made a mark on the tube, pulled it back out of the car, looked at it, and it was literally within like a 1/4 inch of the tube the line I already made, which ended up being 34 inches from the bottom of my tube. So I did the same thing on the other side, 34 inches, put the line directly on the die. Again, we want to start our bend on the line. So that's going to bend my leg this way. So I'm going to really pay attention here that we don't mess up the main hoop at this point. So we got our bend, bam, started the die, and the die is going to bend the next one that way. So we know we're doing good there. Now all I have to do is zero out my die, zero my legs, get it all the same way we did before, and I should be good to go to bend my main hoop. Super scared at this point because I don't want to mess this up, but it is what it is. Let's get it over with, and hopefully this is it. All right, and for the last bend, basically I did the same thing. Gotta make everything zero again. I triple checked from the bottom to the start of my die, 34 inches, and take into account which way you want the bend to go so you don't ruin your main hoop. Basically I want it to start here, and we want it to bend that way to complete the 180 degrees. So everything looks right to me. Now I'm just gonna zero it up again, and we should be good to go, man. If that one came out nice, this one should too. We're just replicating measurements on each side, and hopefully everything fits after I'm done. And that should be about it for the bends for the main hoop, I think. I don't think there's anything else I did. I just basically, I had to flip it, and then I used, that's what I did. I used this one, and I traced the line onto the other side, because obviously when you make your reference marks, it's on one side. So yeah, just something to take note of. But yeah, just make sure you're measuring from the bottom. If you're copying my measurements for a 240, I'm doing from the bottom of my 11-foot tube up, and that's 34 inches. Made a mark, and I put that mark, once again, directly on the start of my die. So now I'm about to lock her up, zero everything, and bend it again. Okay, so I just tried to test fit the hoop, and it's very tight. So I'm going to cut off, I think, 2 inches from the bottom on each side. That way I can fit it in there better and get a better fit check. Alrighty guys, so we got our legs trimmed up. I ended up taking off about 6 inches each side. And I just did it in like 1 inch increments so I can make sure we don't take off too much material. But this is how it came out, and I'm pretty freaking stoked, man. Alright, so there's the fitment. Comes all the way up, touches the roof. And I took this, I don't know what that is, like sunglass visor thing, whatever. I took this out, and that gave me an extra inch, so I can tuck it up even more. And then it touches the roof here, touches here, almost touches here, comes straight down, and then that's where my rocker boxes are going to be built. So I'm pretty stoked on the fitment of the cage. Looks like really close. So bam, look at that. That's sick. And that's gonna make a strong cage. So now I've put some base plates down here, marked where basically where my rocker box is gonna start. And that'll give me some more room to kind of play with it. But basically now I'm going to take the main hoop out, and then I can start making my harness bar and my X brace in the middle. So that'll be kind of fun. And then pretty much the hardest part of the cage is over. The next hump would be the A-pillar bar, or the front hoop. So that'll be kind of fun doing the correct offset there. But I think we can get it done. Overall, I think the cage fits pretty well, and this is basically the hardest part of the cage. So everything after this should be a cakewalk. I mean, you just have 2 bars for your rear supports. You can do X brace back here. Probably gonna do some kind of support here to tie into the strut towers. But overall, man, it looks good. And I think I'm gonna be doing some seat mounts also, because I test fitted the Street Faction one. It's just too high for me. So, I mean, maybe if I just take out the sliders, it will give me some clearance too. So I'm going to try that also. But I might just make some seat mounts too. We'll see. But basically now I'm going to go ahead and start mocking up the design for the harness bar and the diagonal bars. And this is the one I took out, guys. Just so you know, if you don't have a spot weld remover or whatever, you can just drill the first one with like a regular drill bit, just kind of bore it out, and then pop it loose with a like one of those Husky pry bars. Where's it at? Oh, one of those. Oh, I use Cobalt. Whatever, Cobalt pry bar, and just get it right up on the weld and hit it with a hammer, and then that'll pop that loose. And then I just did the rest of the 3. There's one back here, one there, one here. And I just repeated that for all those, and the thing came right off. But I think it looks cleaner, so when you paint it, you don't have that random piece of metal just sitting there. And this is just held up with some adhesive here, and this is already broke loose on mine, so it's just pretty much a waste for it being there, because it doesn't actually support anything. It's just, I'm pretty sure that's for the sunglass compartment. So yeah, I mean, I'll scuff that up, sand it down, and paint it, and it'll look a lot nicer than it did. So I'm pretty excited, man. Overall, this is sick. Yes.